Hello everyone. Today we are going to have a small presentation or discussion on the current burning topic, factors affecting energy commodities. In this presentation, my partner is Mr. Praveen Kumar, and the factors under energy commodities, it includes crude oil, natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, coal, and ethanol. Crude oil is the main commodity which comes under energy. The big question is today that where it will go in near future, why the prices are falling, and so on. uh, what are the factors which are driving its price? So these are the factors which are mainly driving the commodities, energy commodity prices, and mainly crude oil price. The first one is non-OPEC supply growth, OPEC production decision, production capacity, geopolitical risk, weather inventories, global economic growth, speculation, hazing, investment, exchange rates, and inflation. The first topic which we are going to discuss is non-OPEC supply growth. Oil prices are not only affected by actual non-OPEC production but also by the changes in expectations about future non-OPEC supply from 2005 through 2008. Final production reports for non-OPEC production were consistently lower than the forecast expectation. Projection of non-OPEC production were adjusted downward throughout 2008 as reports of actual production were less than expected. The opposite occurred in 2009 and 2010. Other things equal, if supply is less than expected or if demand is greater than expected, price tends to increase. Today's scenario is just opposite, leading to a lowering in crude oil prices. And we are seeing the graph as it is showing that the forecast in 2016 is getting down. Supply growth is non-OPEC supply growth is getting down. These are the analysis non-OPEC supply growth. The second factor is OPEC production decision. Crude oil production by the OPEC countries is an important factor that affect oil prices. This organization seeks to actively manage of production in its member countries by setting production targets. Historically, crude oil prices have seen increases in times when OPEC production targets are reduced. OPEC member countries produce about 40% of the world's crude oil. Equally important to global prices, OPEC's oil export represent about 60% of the total petroleum traded internationally. Because of this market share, OPEC's action can and do influence international oil prices. These are the OPEC countries, and this graph is showing the OPEC production, non-OPEC production, OPEC oil revenues in terms of dollar, and this is the Saudi Arabia chart. Saudi Arabia production exactly showing the same. And the third factor is spare production capacity. OPEC spare production capacity. EIA defines spare capacity as the volume of production that can be brought on within 30 days and sustained for at least 90 days. Saudi Arabia, the largest of oil producer with OPEC and the world's largest oil exporter, historically has had the greatest spare capacity. OPEC spare capacity provides an indicator of the world's oil market ability to respond to potential crises that reduce oil supplies. Oil prices increased during 2003 to 2008 when OPEC's spare capacity level were relatively low. Low spare capacity limits OPEC's ability to respond to demand and price increases, while high spare capacity indicates a withholding of production, presumably for price management purposes. The fourth factor which affect crude oil prices is geopolitical risk. Markets are influenced by geopolitical events within and between OPEC countries because they have historically resulted in a reduction in oil production. Geopolitical risk consists of three components: geography, economic, and technology. Geography limits what is possible in the natural world, like the various prevailing winds and tides affect the routes ships take to navigate the world's ocean, which can affect the economic viability of the project. Economic constraints include the market forces that determine the prices of oil, which has a direct impact on the tax revenues and royalties received by the national government and individuals, which in turn limit the option available to the decision makers. Technology will affect demand and supply. The fifth factor is inflation and exchange rate. An inverse relationship between the price of Brent crude oil and the dollar exchange rate has been evident since 2002. Appreciation in dollar leads to fall in crude oil. Inflation has a strong correlation with oil prices. In US and UK, different analysis show that oil prices drag down uh, inflation expectation up to 5 to 6 year ahead, which is puzzlingly long and suggests that financial market based inflation expectations should be assessed cautiously. Uh, and these are the graphs which are showing 1 year inflation expectation, 10-year inflation expectation, and oil prices in Euro, United States, and United Kingdom. The seventh factor is speculation, hazing, and investment. In speculation, hazing, and investment, perhaps 60% of the total oil price is pure speculation, pure based on speculation. After the US, China is the second largest crude oil consumer. The uh, speculation of a Chinese economic growth slowdown and slower economic recovery is also fueling pessimistic sentiments of weak demand for crude oil over the long term in the oversupplied market. The hedge fund have reduced their short position. This means that they are short covering and the money in the oil market is going out. The latest report from the CFTC, that is US Commodities Future Trading Commission, showed that the speculators have reduced their short position, increased their bullish position. Data from Bloomberg showed that the investor redeemed 13.8 million share from the US oil funds. This is the highest since 2006. It signals a lack of confidence in the oil market, and that's why it is leading to the lowering in crude oil prices. The eighth factor, this is the speculation, hedging, and investment graph from Bloomberg. And speculative industries areas in 2006 as they have invested, the showing in the graph. Eighth factor is global economic growth. For the oil importer countries, oil prices increase and economic growth are negatively correlated. While all things being equal, the relation is positively correlated for oil exporter countries. In fact, as world economic growth increases, the demand for oil increases, which pushes up oil prices. The ninth factor is inventory. That is, during period of strong economic growth, one would expect demand to be robust. If inventories decrease, this will lead to increase in crude oil prices. If inventories increase during a strong economic growth, prices may not be affected. During a period of sluggish economic activity, demand for crude oil may not be as strong. If inventories are increasing, this may push crude oil prices down. And the last factor which affects crude oil prices is weather. Weather can also play a significant role in oil supply. Hurricanes in 2005, for example, shut down oil and natural gas production as well as refineries. As a result, petroleum product prices increased sharply as supplies to the market dropped severely. Cold weather can strain product markets as producers attempt to supply enough to the product, such as heating oil, to consumers in a short amount of time, resulting in higher prices. These are the factors in winter. And this is heating degree. These are indicators of household energy consumption for space heating. And this is the graph which is showing the fact in winters. And one should must know when they are observing crude oil who is producer, who is consumer, trader, hazard, speculators, and investor, policy makers. And then thank you for listening our video on the presentation of factors affecting crude oil prices.